Hi, hello everyone. My name's Eve. I'm a weight management dietitian here at Aintree, and I've been asked here today to give a talk on weight loss and weight management. Just thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself first. I've been a weight management dietitian here for 3 years. Prior to coming here, I worked at Leighton Hospital in Crewe, where I done various roles, but I specialised sort of mainly in the diabetes side of things before coming over to weight management. So we'll start the presentation. What I thought I'd start with is a report that the Public Health of England published this time last year, where they surveyed over 5,000 adults, and what they found was that 80% of adults over the age of 18 had made the decision to make changes in their lifestyle in 2021. 7 out of 10 of them adults felt motivated to get healthier due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And almost half the population feel more motivated in January to make some changes. Around 6 million adults, so age 40 to 60, plan to eat more healthier, lose weight and exercise more. And the survey also revealed that in 2020, the pandemic had a particular significant impact on people's behaviour change. And these were things where they seen an increased rise in the sales of snack foods and confectionery, and an increase in the take home of alcohol compared to the previous year. So lockdown and COVID has had sort of a big impact on the way sort of, our lifestyles and on our weight management. Okay. So I thought I would share this slide of the Eat Well guide, and it's quite familiar to some people, or some people may not have seen it before. And what it is, it's basically what the government and the Food Standards Agency have produced, and it's a guide to help show people what a healthy balanced diet should look like from what you should get from each food group of a healthy balanced diet. So I'm going to go through each of these sections on the Eat Well guide and just explain a little bit more about each of these on the plate. Okay, so the first one is starchy carbohydrates. So this is things such as bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, noodles, couscous, all them sort of things. Okay, why are starchy carbohydrates important? Well, we get our main source of energy comes from our starchy carbohydrates. They're full of fibre, so we want to try and go for foods that are, or carbohydrates that are high in sort of fibre. So that would be swapping white versions for wholemeal and whole grain options. That's going to help keep us fuller for longer, and it's also good for our gut health as well. They're full of B vitamins and iron, folate and calcium as well. So they are an important part of our diet. Now, with starchy carbohydrates, there's quite a few myths around carbohydrate. And one of them being that people feel that they are fattening, carbs are fattening, and often people will try to restrict the carbohydrates in their diet, or they'll go on low carbohydrate diets. But actually, carbohydrates provide 4 calories per gram when we compare that to fat, which provides 9 calories per gram. So just to put that in a little bit of context, if we're comparing, sort of, we're having 2 slices of toast, for example, it's just the added fat and sugar that's going to be on that particular slice of toast. So if we're spreading thickly spread butter on the toast and we're having sort of full sugar jam and things, it's just being aware that it's the additional calories that are going to impact on that rather than the bread itself. So it's just being mindful of, having a less of a scraping of butter and maybe going for no added sugar or lower sugar jam, where you can save sort of the additional calories. So what counts as a portion? So for carbohydrates, we would suggest for weight loss and weight management, size of your fist. So that would be for a potato. so medium-sized jacket potato. For cereal, we're looking about 30-40 gram portion, which is sort of about a quarter of the bowl, depending on how the size the bowl is. For rice, it would be 75 grams of rice or pasta, which was uncooked. That's roughly about a cupful or half a cup of rice. And then with spaghetti, we can use sort of handy measures such as kitchen utensils, or if we could put sort of our finger and thumb together and it's the, sort of the size of that. That's sort of a good way of looking at your portion sizes. Now the next section is fruit and vegetables, and often when we're reducing our carbohydrate portions, we can bulk our meals up with our vegetables and salad. These are again full of fibre, so they will help keep us fuller for longer. They're low in calories, and obviously we're getting lots of vitamins and minerals from them as well. The guidelines for fruit and vegetables is to have at least 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day. And that comes from lots of surveys and sort of studies that shows that plenty of fruit and vegetables can help reduce the risk of many diseases such as high blood pressure, coronary heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. So that's where sort of the portions recommendations come from. So a portion would look like, for fruit, we would say sort of typically palm of your hand, it's 80 grams. So that would be something like a fun-sized banana, an apple, a pear, handful of grapes, handful of strawberries, that sort of thing. For vegetables, again, it's 80 grams. That would be 2 handfuls or 3 tablespoons of vegetables would be 1 portion. It can be, for fruit, it can be fresh, tinned or frozen. They all class as 1 of your 5 a day. If you're going for tinned, we would suggest maybe in the natural juice rather than the syrup. And if you were having dried fruit, it would be a slightly smaller portion because it's more concentrated. So it would be 30 grams, which is 1 tablespoon of the dried fruit. The next section is the protein. Okay, so this is things like meat, fish, eggs, beans, pulses. Okay, benefits of protein. So protein is essential. It's essential building blocks for our body for growth and repair. It increases muscle mass and strength. Our hair, skin, and muscles are made all from protein that we provide ourselves with from our diet, and it's good for helping promote satiety. So that means it helps keeps us fuller for longer. Be mindful of sort of with the fat content of protein, particularly sort of the meat and things. So trying to go for lean cuts of meat, removing any visible skin or fat off the meat or the poultry. So this is just showing you the different types of animal protein versus plant protein. So you've got your animal protein, so that will be your meat and your fish and your eggs. And then the plant protein is the beans, pulses, nuts, seeds, and soya and tofu. So what is a portion? So a portion of protein, for a lady, we would suggest having 2 portions of protein per day. And for a male, we would suggest 3 portions of protein per day. So for fish, it would be sort of palm of your hand. For meat, it would be the size of a deck of playing cards. 2 eggs would be 1 portion. 4 tablespoons of beans or pulses would be 1 portion. 4 tablespoons or 100 grams of tofu or soya, and a handful of nuts, so 30 grams would be a portion, so about 1 tablespoon portion of nuts. For nuts, it's trying to go for the plain nuts rather than the salted or the roasted nuts. The next section on the plate is your dairy. So this is things sort of like milk, cheese and yogurts. So this is important because we get our calcium intake from dairy. So this is good for our bones and our teeth. So for dairy, we're looking at trying to have the lower fat options. So for milk, it would be, rather than the full cream milk, it would be looking like having the semi-skimmed or the skimmed milk. 200 mils would be a portion of your milk. So that could be over the course of sort of in your cups of tea and coffee, or you might get it in your cereal. To get your the calcium that you need. And it would also be 30 grams of cheese, so the size of a small matchstick box, going for the low fat cheese rather than the full fat cheeses, and maybe sort of grating it so it goes a little bit further. And then a small pot of yogurt, so going for the low fat yogurts or the natural yogurt rather than a thick creamy yogurt. And a portion would be a small pot, about 125 grams, or if you bought the bigger tubs, that would be about 3 tablespoons of a bigger pot of yogurt, so that maybe lasts sort of 3 or 4 days for a portion of that. So to get your recommended calcium intake, these 3 things with your cheese and your milk and your yogurt, you would get your daily calcium intake. The next slide is your oils and your spreads. So this is the smallest section on that Eat Well guide that we see. So it's trying to go for healthier fats, so your unsaturated fats, and using them sparingly, really. So for weight loss, what we'd be looking at is to get a sort of 2 to 3 portions of your oils and your spreads per day. And this is what a portion would look like. So it's quite a small amount, so it's a teaspoon of oil, or you could maybe swap that to the spray light sprays, the 1 cal sprays to help. A teaspoon or a thumb size of your spread or your butter, and the same for your mayonnaise and the salad cream. Maybe going for the low fat options there, the lighter mayonnaises, to cut down on the fat and the calories. And then with the fats and the sugars, this is outside of the Eat Well plate. So it doesn't form part of a healthy, balanced diet, but obviously, you know, we can you can allow these as part of your diet, but it just means that to make these the smallest part of your overall diet, just because these are high in fat, salt and sugars. So just have to have these sort of less often, really. So for weight loss, what we recommend, if you're struggling with portion sizes, this is something that we recommend. So it's a visual guide. The plate looks like this. You can buy from many of the sort of high streets now for a couple of pounds, and we've split off into sections. So we suggest having half the plate with your vegetables or salad. That's going to bulk that meal up. And then a quarter of your plate with your protein and a quarter of the plate with your carbohydrates. So this is what it looks like when someone is using the healthy portion plate, and the difference that it looks. So as you can see with the fish, they've gone from sort of 2 slices to 1 slice. They've reduced the amount of rice or couscous that may be on that plate quite significantly, but they've also added a lot more vegetables on the plate, so they're getting 2 portions of the vegetables now. That's going to help bulk that meal up, lots more fibre, so that will help keep you fuller, and it's going to be lower in overall calories compared to the other plate. Okay, so fluids. So fluids really important with our diet, and particularly if it's weight loss and weight management that you're looking at. So we recommend 6 to 8 glasses of fluids per day, and that's equivalent to sort of 1.5 litres a day. We can get this from water, or it can be included with fruit juice. With fruit juice, because it's quite refined sugar, we only recommend 150 mils per day, but it does count towards one of your 5 a day if it was the pure fruit juice. And your teas and coffees and that all sort of add up to your fluids intake. Preferably water or no added sugar, squash or juices is best, really. So why is fluid important? So it helps with our weight management. So sometimes if we've gone quite a long time without having a drink, our brain can get the signals mixed up with hunger and thirst. So often have a little think, if we've not had a drink for a while, have a drink. It helps control our body temperature. It rehydrates us and also good for our joints, so it helps lubricate and cushion our joints. So it's really important to get our fluid intake. So for snacks, many people think that snacks are unhealthy additions and lead to weight gain, and that can be the case but it's thinking about the types of snacks that we choose, and really they can form part of a healthy balanced diet if the right snacks are chosen. So the key to whether snacking is good or bad for you is the snacks that you choose and how often you eat them. And so we'll have a little look about snacks in the next slide. They can help with overeating. So if you go long gaps between meals, or you know it's going to be a long time, they can be a good healthy addition to have a snack in between your meals. So trying to break snacks down into this Eat Well guide and each section, and just to give some examples of some healthier food choices. So we've got vegetables and vegetable dips with sticks. So it could be a tzatziki dip or a low-fat hummus or something, or your fresh tinned or frozen fruit. We could have in your carbs, it could be a slice of toast with banana or some nut spread, or a plain scone or fruit scone with maybe a scraping of sort of a spread on, or it could be rice cakes or some cereal, whole grain cereal, something like that. For protein, you could have a handful of plain nuts or seeds, boiled eggs. That the protein is really good, like I mentioned before, to keep you full for longer. Dairy, you could have a low-fat yogurt or a low-calorie hot chocolate with semi-skim milk, or some cottage cheese and plain crackers. Simple swap. So this is just again giving you some ideas of ways we could just make some simple changes. We've got high sugar sort of chocolate coated cereal there. We could swap that to something more, lots of fibre in. So it could be shredded wheat porridge, Weetabix, something like that. We could add a banana or some fruit to get one of our 5 a day in. For the yogurts, the corny yogurt and the thick creamy yogurt, we could swap to a smaller pot of a low-fat yogurt. Chocolate, instead of the dairy milk, we could swap to a couple of squares of dark chocolate. It tends to be a bit more richer, so it lasts a little bit longer. And then for drinks, instead of the full sugar pop, we could go to water or no added sugar, sugar-free squash. Ice cream, we could swap to maybe frozen yogurt. And then the nuts, like I said before, try and go for the plain nuts. Food labels. So this is it can be a bit of a minefield, food labels. So this is sort of a traffic light system, so an easy way to visualize quickly if something is healthy or not. So it's trying to get things that are more green and amber on the front of the pack rather than the red sections. If it didn't have a traffic light system, what you could do is you could look at the back of the label and you would look at per 100 grams, and that's how all mils if it was a liquid, and that's what you'd do to compare whether it was a healthy option or not. So for example, if you were looking at the sugars, if it was 5 grams or less, that would mean it was green and it's a healthier choice. If it was between 5 and 22, that means that it's in the amber, so it's okay most of the time to have that. But if it was over 22.5 grams per 100 grams or mils, that would mean that that's high in sugar and just to have on occasions. The British Heart Foundation has a good website and a leaflet that they have the food label in, and you can put it out and cut it out, and some people like to keep that in the wallet or the purse just to as a guide. So top tips for weight loss. I thought I'd round it up by just going through a couple of things. So first it would be to eat regular meals. If we tend to skip meals or we go a long time without anything to eat, what can tend to happen is our portions at our next meal can tend to be larger. We can tend to snack later on in the evening because we have skipped that meal. So for weight loss and maintaining weight loss, eating regular really helps with that. Trying to get plenty of fruit and vegetables in the diet, so trying to get a good mixture of colours in your diet. Eating lots of foods that are high in fibre, so these are going to help keep us fuller for longer. Reading the food labels, like I mentioned then. Using a smaller plate can help, and having half the plate with your vegetables. Do not ban food. So again, trying not to exclude what any of them particular food groups that we've gone through, because each one is important for different aspects of your health. But also, you know, don't ban certain foods that you like. So if you fancied a little bit of chocolate, you know, it's not, allow that within a healthy, balanced diet. I think when diets are too restrictive, you know, it can often be hard to sustain that diet. Plan your meals can help. I think if we go and we're not planning our meals, and by the time we get to that meal, we often want something quick and easy, and sometimes they are not as healthy as they could be. Drinking plenty of water, so the sugar-free, no added sugar fluids, and making small changes. So for weight loss and maintaining weight loss, it's a good idea to start off just making small goals. So it might be that, you know, from today you will introduce an extra piece of fruit or an extra portion of vegetables on your plate, or drinking a little bit more fluid, and just build it into your lifestyle. And being more active as well, which is good for sort of our mental health and lots of other things. So the last slide is just some things that you can refer to if you wanted further information. So following that report from Public Health of England, the NHS website updated their 12-week weight loss plan. It's a free app that you can download. It's called Lose Weight, Better Health. And what it is, it's a 12-week weight loss program. You put your details in, your weight, your height, calculate your BMI, and it will give you a weekly program to follow. There's healthy meal ideas on there. You can put your exercise routine in, and it just sets weekly targets. So that's a good one to start with. There's also easy meal app ideas. So again, that's a good one for family. So if you're looking for quick, easy meal ideas with not lots of ingredients, that's a good one to use. The NHS food scanner is really good. So that's helpful, you know, when you're looking through the food labels, and it can be a bit of a minefield. That food scanner, you just scan the food and it will tell you whether that is a healthy choice or not. And then there's MyFitnessPal, which is free. Again, if you wanted to count your calories or look at what you're having, that's a good one as well to use. Thank you very much. Now, if anyone's got any questions, there's a bar at the top of the Teams that you can put in any questions if you had any. We'll go through them now. I think we've got a couple of minutes for questions. I overran a little bit, sorry. So let's have a little look at some questions. Is dark chocolate good for you? So yes, so dark chocolate is a little bit better than the dairy chocolate. It's got some antioxidants in there, that's good for you. And because it is quite rich, we tend to eat a little bit less of it. So that would be a better choice if you were going for that. Next question. Have you any suggestions, or could you point out how best to get protein for someone who is gluten intolerant and also vegan? So again, that would be sort of with the soya or tofu sort of products, or beans and pulses. You will get, or lentils. So that's sort of from the plant-based options. You could get a good source of protein from that side. Yeah. So Are artificial sweeteners better than sugars? So yeah, so if you're looking at weight loss, and you were looking at counting your calories, so there's less sweeteners are safe, and there's very little calories in sweeteners, whereas sugar, there's 15 calories per teaspoon of sugar. So if you're looking at weight loss, it would be more probably better to go for the sweeteners, or if you were diabetic and you needed to watch your blood sugars, it would be a good alternative for sweeteners. Is there a difference between white and wholemeal starch carbohydrates? Yet, with white carbohydrates, they're broken down a lot quicker in our system by our stomach and our digestive system. So we'll have a quick peak in our energy and a quick steep curve after that. So the wholemeal, whole grain options or oaty options, because there's lots more fibre, it takes a long time for these sort of fibres to get broken down into your system, so you will keep you fuller for a lot longer. So they would be a good option. Always thought you can only have one egg a day. No, so I think eggs, previously, old research was when it was looking at cholesterol, and eggs was a topic on that area. But now we know that it's the way eggs are cooked. So 2 eggs would be one of your portions of protein. So it's trying to cook it where you're not using lots of oil. So it would be, poached egg or boiled egg, or frying it but using, a very small amount of oil, or the spray lights. Does tea and coffee contribute to the amount of water you drink in a day? Yeah, so it does contribute. Again, just thinking about your tea and coffee, are you adding sugar in it and things? They would add up your calories, but they do contribute to your fluid intake. Should you limit the amount of red meat that you eat? Yes, so for red meat, it's a good source of iron in your diet, which you need, but it is quite high in fat. So try and limit that to sort of 1 to 2 portions a week. Going for your lean cuts of meat, so 5% mince and that sort of thing can help with that. See, did I say using smoothie loss appetite and issues? I'm not quite sure what that question is, but I can get back to you on that one, or you can email about that. Can you send out the information on the app? Yes, so I can send one of the coordinators the links to all of these apps, and they can put that somewhere for you. Does blending fresh fruit in a smoothie change the sugar content? Yes, so smoothies can be quite high in sugar, just because when we're eating fruit, we're eating the skin on the fruit, we're eating all the fibres in that fruit. So when it's broken down and it's in a smoothie, all that goodness, all that fibre is removed, took out of that smoothie, so we're just left with the refined sugar from the smoothie. Now, what I would suggest is limiting that smoothie. So it can be 1 of your 5 a day, but if it's 150ml small glass, maybe try and add a bit of vegetables in it instead, and a bit less fruit, just to make sure you're getting enough fibre. Can you give top tips for weight gain, please? So for weight gain, that would just be looking at making sure that you are sort of, it's a little bit opposite, I suppose, to weight loss. So it would making sure that you're eating sort of higher calorie food, so but still the good fats. So it would be the mono and saturated fats that you want to be getting a lot of. So it could be things like your nuts and your seeds, your avocados, your protein intake. But I think if you are looking at weight gain, I would suggest having a referral and speaking to one of the dietitians, maybe at your GP practice or something like that. We could go into a little bit more detail. I think I've run out of time now. If there is any questions that I haven't answered, maybe one of the coordinators could forward them to me and I could answer them and get them to you. Thank you very much for joining. I hope that was useful for people. And yeah, like I said, any more questions, I'll try and get back to you. Thank you very much.